We will now go to the recorded session, which begins now. Okay, welcome to MoxiEngage training. I am Eric Thomas, your trainer today. I will not dwell on the login procedure because that's a little more workshop-like, but I do want to start the session by noting the start page for MoxiEngage, which I've put up on the screen, which is engage.rppage.com. Once you go to that site, there is a Google authentication screen where you enter in your credentials, and then, assuming everything goes well, you will arrive at your MoxiEngage dashboard. And this dashboard is kind of an account that I'm borrowing. This fellow has a nicer photo than do I, so I'm kind of using his for demonstration purposes. What you will see when you arrive safely at engage.rppage.com is a snapshot of your business as it stands today. MoxiEngage is a CRM. It is a client relationship manager. It is a real estate business manager. It's a place where you track the activities of your clients, bringing them from a prospecting state to a closed transaction state, which is the goal. There is a pipeline, as we call it, which is denoted by this portion of the screen, these separate stages of the process, what they call marketing, prospects, actives, and then pending. So this is about how many people you have. Now this sample account doesn't have a lot going on. We do need more people than 5 to have a successful year, unless each one of those is $1 million listing, which would be great. But the idea is that you have all of your people in Google Contacts. MoxiEngage draws its people from the address book of the Google account with which you logged in to get here. So you can manipulate the address book over at Google Contacts, but whatever people are in there will sync into here. And you can see that summary of how many people you have. Another thing I should mention is that the first time you log into this software, you're going to be prompted to enter your GCI goal for the year. Remember, this is kind of a business planner. So the idea is you set a goal for the year, and then the software is kind of tracking your transactions. You'll enter the MLS numbers where that's appropriate. I'll show you how to do it. All of that information is reported back into your goals dashboard. And then if you click on that, you can see details about how many closed you have on buyer side versus seller side and so forth. So there's more detail to be had in there. But the idea is that we're starting with your list of people who are your prospects and ultimately the people whom you will close. That's the idea, and that's what the pipeline is summarizing for you, how many people you have in the different stages. Again, it's not a great example. You'll have a much better one once you populate your address book, and you'll be able to see, okay, how many people do I have in the various stages of my pipeline, and what activities do I have to perform today? When you add in custom tasks and so forth, it'll tell you what your tasks are going to be. This synchronizes to the Google Calendar as well. It's all integrated into the Google products. Let's take a look at how this works. Up above, you have some drop-down menus. You have your people menu, which can take you to your list of contacts, or you may add a person individually. Now, I'm a fan of importing everybody into Google Contacts from whence they will sync into here. And importing into Google Contacts is actually a very easy process compared to what it was years ago. You know, any spreadsheet, any database you have can be imported into Google Contacts, and Google Contacts has a terrific feature called merge duplicates. It's perfect because it'll take all those secondary and tertiary entries of the same person, the one that has a different phone number versus different street address versus different email address. It will merge them into one contact. So I strongly recommend that you import contacts into Google Contacts, use that merge duplicates feature, and then you'll have a nice clean list of people. Now, as an example, you may certainly add somebody individually. And let's just start with that. Since we don't have a lot of people in here, we say, I need a prospect, I need to get moving here. I'm going to add somebody manually. And we're going to start with name, normal stuff. I'm going to use myself as a test subject here. Places to enter information like phone numbers and email addresses. Thank you for that. Email address. So name, phone number, email, those are all good things to have. If you have an address, I would recommend you enter it, or at the very least, a zip code. And there's a special reason for that, which I'll dwell on later. But zip codes are good to have in your contacts. So I've entered in the essentials. There's more that can be added, of course. But once you've got the critical info in there, click on Done up here. Whew, that was tough. Okay, the system has processed this information and is now prompting you to make a designation. Is this person a client or is this a non-client? And for the most part, of course, our focus is on clients, actual prospects and so forth. You can designate people as non-client, family members, people with whom you're not going to do business and so forth. But the best usage of this, of course, is putting everybody in here who may become a client and then indicating such by clicking on client. Then the system asks you, what kind of client do we have? Do we have a seller prospect, or do we have a buyer prospect? Or do they not quite fall into either category, but you still want to keep them in your database for outreach purposes and all that? Create marketing plan, which is kind of a generic version of these two things. Let's say, being the optimistic people that we are, that this is going to be a seller prospect. Because when we make that designation, we get a list of specific things to do that are specific to a seller. This is the task list. And the task list is a way to stay on track with all the various things that one would do in leading this person to a successful close. So you can see things like conduct a pre-listing interview, schedule your property walkthrough, make a pre-listing packet. All of these items are checklist items, and as you complete these tasks, you may click on the check mark, and that will remove the task from here and place it at the bottom under the completed list. So this is a way for you to become and or stay very organized about what specific steps you're going to take people through. Tasks can be modified is another important piece. If you look over on the right on the due date, you'll see where you can edit this task. Now in this case, it's the task is to make an appointment. So you set a due date and so forth, and then that also appears on your calendar. But if you want to modify the task due date or something like that, or change the description or change what it is, you can do all of that as well. And you can customize the entire task list. I'll show you where that is in a minute. If you like the idea of having this sort of roadmap of things to do, but the list doesn't exactly jibe with your sort of preferred system that you've come up with over the years, the system can accommodate that by allowing you to modify the entire task list. But again, as a simple example, we take this person whom we entered as a seller prospect, and we take a look at these tasks, and we conduct the tasks, we complete them by clicking on the check mark, and when you've completed all of those tasks, you're ready to move them to the next phase, which is what the big button above is for. Again, notice that sort of pipeline, that process. Everybody starts out in marketing. We got pre-marketing tasks to do. We're ready to move them to active zone. In this case, we're going to sign the actual listing agreement, that kind of thing. So we complete the initial tasks, then we hit the button up above to move to the next phase. And we get the "Are you sure?" prompt, which is fine. Yes, we want to take them to the next stage. Now we've got a different list of tasks. And notice how the second item up is to mail a gift, because they like the idea of, rewarding people for staying with you. But all the other things to do, input the listing into the MLS, order the yard sign, look at validate your photos, mail out the just listed postcards. Again, you may or may not do all of these things, but they are there on the checklist. Here's a secret. You can click the button up above to move to the next phase without having completed these tasks or even clicking on them. I mean, it's not a requirement exactly to move them through, but the idea is to keep you focused and getting everything done that needs to be done. You'll notice too that there's the task list, but there's another tab here called Details, and that's where the devil resides. The Details section allows you to click on Edit and input the MLS number of this listing, or indicate if it's a non-MLS listing. You can do it either way. But what's nice about this is when you input that MLS number, the system will give you a preview of that listing. You'll see the photo and you can select it, and then that listing is added to this person's transaction. And when the property closes and so forth, that information is fed back and applied to your goals dashboard to let you know that you are on track to accomplish your goals for the year. So that's the idea behind the details section. And I'm not going to input one because it's kind of just a demo. But the task list, sorry, back here under tasks, will keep you on the straight and narrow is the idea. There's another piece in here I wanted you to see. Yes. Here's an interesting one. Send just listed announcement email. This is one of the sort of outreach products that is integrated into MoxiEngage, which allows you to send out a kind of a blast email message to everybody you have subscribed to this service. And I'll talk about how to do that in a moment. But notice how there's a place here to send out an email announcement that you have just taken this listing. And there's another one in the final phase called send the just sold email. So you can have the just listed email go out saying, hey, look, this agent has just taken this listing, and then another one saying, hey, another happy client, home is sold. So kind of a double whammy of good information that you are an active agent selling stuff. So listing announcement is a very neat outreach tool. And there's another one called Neighborhood News, which is very exciting. But let me finish the transaction process first before I get to that. So your additional tasks that you have, you either click on the check marks and mark these as done, or you make modifications to the due dates, or you can even add in your own tasks that you need, that you think should be there but aren't. In any case, at some point, you're ready to move this to the next stage, and you're going to need to provide an estimated close date. And I'll be really optimistic and say it's going to close on Monday, because we know how often that happens. The system wants details about the listing before it's going to let me proceed. And since this is a fictitious example, I'm not going to dream up a fake listing number and so forth. But now you've seen the basic process. You complete the tasks on the list, you move people through the different stages, and eventually you close them. That transaction is done. Information on the listing regarding your commission and so forth is imported in, and you will then see all of that reflected on your goals dashboard. I forgot to mention too that under details is where you can designate what commission. It defaults to 3, but you could change the default, or you could just type in what the number is going to be each time. So that is how we complete a transaction and track it with this person here. And that's the idea behind this, is to give you a system whereby you can complete everything you need to do for each of your prospects. Now, having shown you that, let me show you some of the ways in which you can manipulate this. In MoxiEngage, there are a couple of extra buttons at the upper right, as there usually are. And the little sprocket gear-looking icon there has an option called Engage Settings. So you can customize a lot of what happens in here. For example, the task manager, which is the list of tasks that we saw, the list of tasks that you need to accomplish. If you select task manager, you can see the various marketing plans. There's the seller plan that we did a few minutes ago in the example. If I click customize, I could completely redo that whole list. I could drag and drop and reorder these things. I could delete them if some of them it's not going to let you delete because they're considered to be crucial, but most of these you could just delete and or add your own custom tasks. So this is so that you can have the entire marketing plan reflect the tasks in the manner that you perform them. And again, if you don't already have some system, the existing task list is a pretty thorough list of things that needs to happen typically in a real estate transaction. But you have the ability to modify the heck out of that. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So custom task list, modifying the tasks. You can customize other aspects of the system. The way notifications are sent to you when contacts take certain actions, such as visiting your website or being sent the neighborhood news. Let's take a look at another way in which you can track activity. If you look at the people drop down above here and you go to My People, that's the generic link for just taking a look at who's in your database and what's going on. So see the list of names here, and there are a couple of options here next to each one. Here's that guy that I just added who happens to be me. Now I can log some activity in here, or I can even send the guy an email or log a phone call. But if we log some activity, that's a way of keeping track of how we have been in touch with them. I called on such and such a date, we discussed this, and so forth. Again, if that is the way you like to indicate what you've been discussing with this person, that's a pretty good system to use. So all of that will be stored and tracked in the details section of that person. If you click on this person's name, it'll take you to the details page. There is that section. You got your profile, you default to the task list, you can see the contact information, but if you go to activity, it'll tell you, okay, you added this person, you put them on a transaction, you subscribed them to the listing announcements, or they visited your website, or the neighborhood news email was sent and they read it, because it does track that. So you'll have some idea of who's looking at your neighborhood news subscription, which I'll talk about in a minute, but just keep in mind that whatever things that the client does on his or her side will be reflected in the activity section of each client's entry. So that's kind of the flow of taking a look at whom you've got in there, logging activities such as phone calls or emails or what have you. Let's say you just imported a bunch of people and you want to start them on the marketing plans or whatnot. There is the Categorize Wizard, which sort of gives you a dashboard of everybody you've got and gives you a quick way to designate them as client or non-client and then indicate which marketing plan you want to put them on. Again, buyer prospect or seller prospect or just generic marketing plan. So we can do all of that for a big group that we just imported in, or you can add people in one by one. It's entirely up to you. But my guess is you've got a list of people somewhere. And it could be in another system, it could be in an address book for Gmail or Yahoo or a spreadsheet from Excel or Outlook address book, and they can all be exported easily these days, imported into your Google Contacts, and then they'll sync right into here. And I can help you with that too. I will give you my contact information. All right, next on our long list of fun things to do, let's take a look at how we can use this for outreach purposes. Staying in front of people, staying in top of mind. That's an important feature of a CRM. In fact, let me go back to this guy again. Another item on a prospect's details page is called subscriptions. So the subscriptions section of MoxiEngage is where we can activate these tools such as the neighborhood news and the listing announcements that again will have the effect of sending out interesting messages with your branding and all that without your having to do much of anything. If you click on add subscriptions, you get your choice. There's two main products, neighborhood news and listing announcements. And I touched on listing announcements a couple of minutes ago. That's where you can hit the button within that task list to send out that blast to everybody who's subscribed saying just listed or just sold. So that one does require pushing a button when it's time to actually send the just listed or just sold announcement. Let's take a look at neighborhood news. Neighborhood news is a snapshot of real estate activity in a given zip code over the last 30 days. So it's a once a month little real estate news thing that shows here's how many actives and pendings and sold in the last month, and here's the average and the median and the high and the low. A nice little feature. And once you've subscribed somebody to this, again, it will go out every month with that update for that zip code. Since I added the zip code to this person when I inputted the contact, it's already up here. If this information is not present, you have to type it in, or if there's missing an email or whatnot. But once you've got an email address and a zip code, and you can preview this sort of welcome text that goes out, and you can modify that welcome text, or you can even change the default welcome text back in the Engage settings. But go ahead and look for the preview link on the right there, and click on that. And it will give you an idea of what is being sent to this person every month. This is a 94538 report, so this is what I'm going to get every month. Oh, and here's, the trends and the highs and the lows, and there's a mortgage calculator and a map view, and I can look at actives or solds or both, and I can look for the last 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. It's a neat little tool. The buttons don't work in the preview mode, so you have to have the live one. And of course, you can always set yourself up with one of these just to kind of see how they look and feel and so forth. But again, once you've activated this for somebody, it goes out once a month to whoever's subscribed with that little real estate news report for the given zip code with your branding, your photo, your contact information, all that stuff. It goes out every month without you having to do anything. So it's a terrific thing to activate for just everybody. Anybody and everybody should get neighborhood news. That is my strong recommendation. Just put everybody on this. And if you don't have zip codes handy for where that person lives or is interested in, you can always use this zip code or just something in the area, just to get something going. Now, once you've entered the zip code and the email address, you click done, and now that person gets that report every month. So that's setting up neighborhood news for a single person. But what if you want to do this for everybody, as I just recommended? Do you have to go into each person and do this? No, there's a faster way. Thank goodness. Go to the My People view. Look for the Select All button. You can, of course, check individually, but you hit Select All. Okay. When everybody is selected, and that could be, 10 or 100 or 1,000, but you've selected people, there's a button called Add To. And you could put people into one of your contact groups, contact group sorting and whatnot. But right up here, the first choice is Neighborhood News. So you select Neighborhood News after you've picked everybody in your database, and you are then prompted to provide the missing information. So in this example, this fellow's done a terrible job. There's not a single zip code present. But you enter the zip codes, or if you don't have the zip code or you don't really want to send it to this person, you could remove that person from this operation by clicking on X. That does not remove the person from the contacts list. It just removes them from the subscription process. But go ahead and enter the zip codes. There's 20 per page on this, so once you've satisfied all these empty box requirements, you click done and you go to the next round of 20, and you keep doing that until everybody's subscribed. It's a fairly straightforward procedure. Maybe you've imported a farm or something. Everybody's in the same zip code. Here's a handy one. Enter same zip code for everyone. They're all in the same zip. Now, I hear you saying, well, that's great, but could I just do a specific city? The answer is not really. This is set up for zip codes and zip codes only. When you get somebody who's more interested in a specific area with specific criteria, that's when we go to property searches and so forth. And you can do those off the agent website. This is really more to get people looking, to get them thinking of you, and to call you to list their home or help you buy another one. That's the idea, an outreach tool. That's what Neighborhood News is. And again, I strongly recommend that you add everybody to Neighborhood News once you've populated your contacts list. So that's one terrific outreach tool. Let's look at the other major choice. We have everybody selected here in the engaged list. We click on Add To, and we're going to subscribe everybody to listing announcements. It's the second choice on that list. So here what we have is a double column, because remember there's two different products. There's the just listed email and there's the just sold email. So it's a 1-2 punch. Cool thing to send out when you list, and then when it closes, another successful closing. But you can subscribe to either. It just defaults to subscribing everybody to both. So again, this is a little different from neighborhood news because you have to subscribe people to this service, but then you still have to take that separate action back on the task list to actually send this out. So I'll review that. You subscribe everybody to this service, you click on Done, now they're all subscribed. Everybody is subscribed, but they're not going to actually receive that email until you find the appropriate function in the task list. So let's go back to this guy, who I believe is still in the active stage. There's the prompt to mail the postcards, which you have to do separately. But here's the one for send just listed announcement email. And there's the green button that allows you to send it. I can't send it right now because I haven't put in an MLS number or indicated non-MLS and provided some other details, because the email that comes with the listing announcement has the primary photo of the property and so forth to make it more attractive. But again, after you have subscribed everybody to this service, and there's really no reason not to, make sure that you entertain this portion of the task list by clicking on the email announcement button. And when you do that, there's a little preview of what the text says, and of course you can modify it, but it says something along the lines of another successful closing, please let me know if I can help you with your property sale, that kind of thing. You can hear them constructing the email in the background. Okay, we have neighborhood news, we have subscribed multiple, we have subscribed one. Back to the dashboard for a second. See, we've increased our database by 20%. Big gain. GCI goal, click on the GCI goal to get the actual number, because it toggles between how much progress you've made and the number you've put in. But if you click on the GCI goal icon, this gives you a more detailed breakdown. And of course, this is kind of an empty one because there's no transactions in this particular account. But you can kind of see what have you closed on the buyer side, what have you closed on the seller side, what do you have in active and pending right now, what do you have in prospects, how are you doing against what you forecast. Again, in this case, we're nowhere near what we need to be. But there's interesting information here, and this is why this is all included as a way to keep track of your business, keep track of what progress you're making, and identify, do I have enough people in here to meet my goal? There's only 5 in this account as an example, so it's not the greatest. Again, you will have more people. When you have a database of a couple of thousand people, you may need to filter down when you're looking for certain people. So you can filter to just the people that are in the pipeline, or one of your custom groups that you created, either in Google Contacts or in here. And then once you've got those people displayed, you could subscribe them to neighborhood news, for example, or you could send them all an email message. You click on select all, for example. You've got your email icon up at the upper right. And now you can send a message to a particular group or a particular person. Little editor there. Send that off, and you've got yourself a mass email. It's not the most beautiful editor. Now, I will say that if you're back in Gmail, you got the same contacts list, and you can insert pictures and get fancy and all of that. If you really want to put in, like, an HTML enhanced looking email message, you might do it from Gmail since you have the same groups and so forth. But if you're working in Engage, this is a quick and easy way to send off a mass message. So it's kind of neat. What else can I tell you? The Engage settings which we saw. Oh, another thing I should mention. Let's uncheck everybody. Let's say that some people in here really don't need to be in here for whatever reason. Now I've just selected that one person. I can trash that person from here. There's the remove trash can button. You can remove this person from Engage, but the reason I'm stressing this is because that person is not taken out of the Google Contacts address book. Okay, it doesn't delete out of there. It just takes them out of this Engage system. So if your giant database has, hundreds of relatives who are out of state or whatnot, who really are not realistic prospects for business, they can be removed en masse as a group. And then you've just got the people who are going to people whom we reasonably suspect you may transact with. Those are the ones you want to have in here. But do not shy away from loading up a giant group into Google Contacts, because it's easier to start with a big list and then whittle down. So removing people from Engage is easy to do, and it won't delete them out of the database. That's a key point to stress. So add people manually, or again, import them over at Google Contacts, send them all a message, select everybody and add them to one of the subscription services such as Neighborhood News and or listing announcements. Those are the 3 pillars of your success. And then the task list for, the given person that we saw, bringing them through all these steps to result in a successful transaction, is a way to keep your entire business on track. That's the vision behind it. And again, you may have a certain style of business you've arrived at, and maybe that list doesn't speak to the way you do it, but remember that it can all be customized back under Engage settings. Customize the entire plan and make that task list reflect what you actually do in your business, and then you're going to have a very straightforward and streamlined method of running a successful real estate practice. That's really what it's all about. That's the vision behind it. I've pretty much brought you through everything you need to do, so I'll just point out a couple of other things real quick before we break and start taking your questions. But one of the settings here is called Help Center, and they do have a lot of PDF articles and videos and so forth, a lot of the same things I'm talking about. Our application of this is perhaps more specific than you might see in a generic video, so I think it's helpful that we've had this time together. But be aware that there's a fairly robust help center in here, and you will have my contact information for help and so forth, but they also have their own support desk and whatnot. I like to try and help people, on the front level here, because that's what I do. But there is all kinds of support available for you in the background. All right, so the other sections of Moxie, which we get into in different modules, are above here, but this is just the piece for MoxiEngage, and I did give you that address there. I'll leave you with that, but I'm also going to add my contact information so that you may ask me questions. There you have it, eric.thomas@bhghome.com, or give me a call or send me a text. Let me know how we can help you to help this product help your business. If I may end with some alliteration there. Wow, we wrapped up much earlier than usual this time. Give yourselves a round of applause for putting up with technology training first thing in the day. I'm asking a lot of you, I know that. Okay, finally. We are free of the recording. Thank you so much for attending. And now, that's the break point. Recording ends. Have a wonderful day.